Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to TSP TV and thank you for tuning into today's episode, which I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of prepping, although some of you may be already aware of the importance of prepping if you are tuning in and already are an experienced prepper. Some of you, however, may be new to prepping and may be as a result of this current global scammed pandemic that we do find ourselves all tied in together some way or another. We've all been affected, if not infected, by the COVID-19. As I said, in one way or another, maybe we are non-essential, maybe we have to now suddenly wear masks and things in our workplace. Shit has changed for the most part, but one thing that doesn't change is the fact that humans do indeed need to still remain to eat, and something that we have been seeing a little bit during this pandemic, scamdemic, plandemic, however you want to label it, is that there have been some kind of erratic shopping behavior, and there has been a certain amount of food shortages that we are seeing as a result of supply chains being affected, factories being closed down, produce and production lines coming to a standstill, farmers having to disregard and remove and destroy crops and things that were intended for industrial commercial purposes. And this is again why we are going to reiterate, excuse me there, a little bit about the importance of prepping. Now, some of you who have followed TSP TV since its humble beginnings a little over a year and a half ago will be very aware that I do have a thrift store prepping method or practice or discipline that I kind of put together for myself, and I kind of called micro stroke sensi prepping. Micro prepping is something I call, if you don't have a lot of space available, maybe you're someone like myself who has shared accommodation, may live in a room, maybe sharing a condominium with someone or an apartment, maybe living in a trailer, maybe a student in a dormitory or something like this, shared living. As I said, trailers, van life, has people who may not have an awful lot of space to work with, or maybe also not have a lot of income to work with. How on earth do you prep? And that's where I put together my little micro prepping system, in which I used a very small plastic storage drawer system, unit type filing cabinet thing. We'll have a little look in a second. Well, I started out with just a single one, and my intention was to maybe put together around 30 days worth or 6 weeks worth of food, because in my time since I've left the United Kingdom, my native home, and been living in North America, kind of hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, sometimes been out of work due to illness, seasonal, occupational stuff, there's been a vast array of reasons why I've sometimes been out of work, and as a result of being out of work, not necessarily had any income coming in, but at the same time, we still need to eat, and if you've got no income coming in, and there's nothing in the pantry, what do you eat? So that's why the importance of prepping, having a little bit of food insurance, something our good friend in our channel, fellow channel, Prepper channel, Alaska Prepper, talks about is food insurance, and a little bit kind of similar to him. That's something I've put together for myself, some food insurance in each and every week. As I said, from the humble beginnings in this channel, I use primarily the Dollarama and other low-cost grocery stores in order to pick up my pantry items, be it ramen noodles or cans of beans, canned potatoes, instant oatmeal, whatever it is. they have come primarily from the Dollarama store and, as I said, low-cost grocery stores such as No Frills. And over a period of a year or so, I managed to amass far more than the 30 days intended amount of food that I was planning to put together at the start of this little project. But over the years and the weeks, well, yeah, weeks and months, and 1 year, and almost 1.5 years that this channel has been in effect, I put together maybe 6, 7, even 8 months worth of pantry items, including MREs, crackers, jerky, all sorts of things, a vast variety of stuff. But in the last 4 months, back in March 16th, the pandemic was announced. Day or two afterwards, here in Ontario, and particularly Toronto, bars and restaurants were closed down. I am a chef. I was closed down. I was made non-essential. I mean, of course, if I worked at McDonald's, KFC, or Pizza Hut, and we had an Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes account going, I probably still would be essential. But independent businesses and stuff like that, they're non-essential, and people like myself, in the servers and bartenders and people that work in the service industry, were the first people to be non-essential in this city. And since that time, I have pretty much been primarily living off of my pantry items, although through the kindness of some of my viewers who have given me donations in my TSP TV tip jar, that is the only income I have been coming on, because due to my status here, I am ineligible to receive any governmental handouts or assistance in this crisis. So I really have had to live primarily on my pantry item. And again, this is practicing what I preach. I don't just go out and put together, this pantry to manufacture reality for my channel like maybe some other pretender prepper channels might do. I live by my kind of my rules, I guess, and as I said, practicing what I preach. Over the periods of time that I have been in North America, I found myself out of work, and in order to sort of prevent myself from being in similar situations to this, being out of work, having no income, no food, I put together a pantry, and it has never been more important than it has been in contemporary times. Unless you've been under a rock, it's hard to avoid the pandemic that we are, as I've aforementioned, all affected by, if not infected by, the disease. It has a 99.9% survival rate. But anyway, let's go and have a little look over at the pantry. I'm going to kind of show you a little bit how it has deplenished, but still remains quite steadfast, and should suffice for quite some time to come, should I need to live off it any further. But as I said, since this kind of started, I was lucky enough that, hey, you know what, I have a fully stocked pantry to live on. I don't really need to worry too much about having to feed myself, although there are some other necessities and things that I do need to kind of keep topped up and supplied, mostly kind of coffee and sort of smokes, which are kind of pleasures as much as they are essentials. On top of that, I did have a kind of small kind of supply of toiletries and maybe some sort of laundry detergents and things like that, that have also kind of taken a little bit of a hit during this pandemic. But in terms of food, which is the thing that we do need most of all, we will indeed die if we don't get food into our system, as opposed to maybe not washing our socks or maybe not shaving for a couple of weeks. We can kind of live with dirty socks and a little bit of stubble, but we're not going to be able to live without food. And luckily enough, I had plenty of food stocked, piled at the start of this pandemic. And as I said, we're going to go and have a little look over there now, see what the pantry is looking like now, maybe point out a couple of the items that we do have stockpiled. There may be hints and tips for yourself to get out there if you haven't got a pantry already, to start putting together your food insurance, because who only knows what 2020 has in store yet for us. It has been a shit clusterfuck of a ride right up until now, and as I said, who knows what they're going to be throwing at us before the ball drops on New Year's Eve. So without any further ado, guys, let's relocate from our little studio here in the TSP studios and go and look in the pantry. Okay, so there is what the pantry is looking like at the moment. I have actually relocated. It was kind of in my living space, but I do have this kind of, it's where the boiler is. And there's my roommate's little pantry over there in the corner. But this is my little pantry. I've got this little kind of space here, which I'm kind of trying to utilize a little bit so I'm not so clustered. But as you can see, it doesn't really take up a great deal of space. And any one of these storage units you can see in front of you, as I said, the little kind of plastic, Rubbermaid type drawer systems, but they are very, very purposeful and almost ideal for what I have utilized them for in putting together what I called my micro pantry. I don't know if you can see here the white one there that I'm kind of pointing to. That was the first storage unit that I did start out with, and that was my intentions. Let's just fill that up with some cans of beans, some ramen noodles, some spam, stuff like that. And then I do got myself a little bit of an emergency food supply if I do need to come and call upon it in order to stay alive, which in recent months I have. Now, something that has already deplenished and I no longer have are my MREs, although I do have a few components left, which I've thrown together a little TSP TV 24-hour ration, homemade kind of deal. I will be trying to put together a video of that for your enjoyment, entertainment purposes. It possibly will be a burp-free one because I'm not going to be eating that yet. But I did have a couple of cases of MREs that I picked up off of eBay that were out of date for $35 for 12 rations. Excuse me, I nearly did burp then, almost on cue. But I picked those up off of eBay, and the reason they have now been used up completely because they were already kind of at their beyond their best before date. They went out of, or they went the best beyond that they did kind of come and go back in October 2019, and they were already 5 years old at that time. So as they were the first thing in my pantry to expire, that is what I started to live off first. And that's a little bit of a service industry and also a prepper kind of pantry kind of system that you need to work in, first out. So you kind of have to do a little bit of stock rotation because things do have expiries. So you kind of keep the oldest stuff at the front of the pantry and put the newer stuff at the back, because that's obviously the longer shelf life. You will move towards it, so you take the front stuff that's going to expire first off the front of the shelf, and then the stuff that's going to expire next will be second in the shelf, yada yada whoop-de-woo. I'm sure you get the picture. So the MREs that were already beyond their best before date were something that I lived off for nearly 6 weeks, because some of those MRE ration packs, they will contain more than one entree, and you don't necessarily have to eat them all in one serving or one sitting, as I do when I make an MRE ration review video. Some of those you may be recorded. I did break those 2 boxes down, took all the components down, and out of the packaging, we rat fucked them, which is a terminology used by the military when they break down their rations and kind of discard the stuff they're not going to need and maybe relocate it within their packaging that they are carrying with them, like backpacks and sort of stuff like that. But I basically broke them all down, threw them in a couple of little storage containers. Now I've actually emptied nearly 3 of the little plastic storage containers, which you can kind of see on the right side here. Those are primarily stocked up with ramen noodles. I don't know if you can kind of see at the very bottom in the right hand there's some gold packaging in the bottom. That's Betty Crocker instant mashed potatoes. You can get various brands of instant mashed potatoes. Just add water. You can additionally, make them with milk, add butter or any other kind of flavorings as you want. You can also kind of just pour those into a can of soup to thicken it up. Use the liquid of the soup. Use the instant mashed potatoes to thicken up soup. Same with broth. You can get a chicken ramen seasoning package. Boil that up with some water. Throw in maybe a few spoonfuls of the instant mashed potato, and that will thicken it up. And that's something also that doesn't take a great amount of water in order to prepare and become edible. The other thing I kind of got at the top there are some kind of breakfast items. So I got a couple of kind of like granola-y, muesli cereal things with a little bit of a long shelf life. They come with some dried fruits in there, as well as some minute oats, which is the kind of almost instant oatmeal where you don't have to boil them. Again, it doesn't need the vast amounts of water that the regular oatmeal kind of have to boil it up for a long time. And again, you don't know what your situation is going to be in. You don't know if there's going to be power. You might not have the fuel. You might have run out of propane. The less amount of water and less amount of cooking that you have to do in order to eat your preps, the better, in my personal opinion. As I said, you don't know what situation you are going to be in, and the most part, I have canned items, as you can possibly see. I've got some chunky soups there. I've got cans of whole potatoes. I've got cans of beans, chickpeas, various kind of things like that. I've also got some, baked beans, some boyardee, raviolis, some kind of few canned veggies, some canned fruits. I've got spam, canned chicken, canned corned beef, some cans of salsa and things like this that you can use for season. But the reason I have cans, if you have a can opener, then you can eat. You haven't got to worry about itself. You may find yourself in a shit hitting the fan situation. You may have a personal injury where you're not going to be able to go out and collect firewood. You maybe not be able to tend to a pot of rice that's cooking on an open fire. But if you can kind of use a can opener and you've got a spoon, then you can eat any one of these items out of a can as they are. You don't need to heat or cook them. Additionally, on the far side there, we're looking at now, you can kind of see it's pretty much just ramen on top of ramen. And we also have a couple of bags of couscous. And again, couscous is something that doesn't need much water in order to prepare it. And you kind of really just have to pour boiling water over it, or very warm water, and it will kind of just hydrate on its own. It's not something like pasta or rice you have to boil over a period of time. You just pour the boiling water on and it will hydrate itself. And ramen noodles you can eat from the package, and again, don't take very much water if you do want to hydrate them and soften them up. And again, you can use the liquid that is in a can of potatoes or the liquid that is in a soup, and use that liquid to hydrate your ramen noodles. And again, adding the ramen noodles into a can of soup would add carbs, a little bit of protein in other stuff as well. The sodium content in ramen does contain come in the seasoning packaging. But as I said, guys, there has been a lot of stuff that I have used up already in the last 4 months of this pandemic, mostly kind of crackers. I had granola bars. Again, these are kind of things that have a little bit of a shorter shelf life than the canned items. I really am kind of trying to keep the cans for long term as most as I can, and ramen is kind of very inexpensive, cheap. Sometimes you can pick it up for 10 cents a package, and so even if in a few months I have to kind of maybe throw away some ramen because it's spoiled, I haven't exactly lost that much in terms of investment. This is why we go to the Dollarama and go to No Frills and keep our insurance as low in cost as we possibly can. I guess, especially if you are like kind of on a minimum wage or hand to mouth, month to month, paycheck to paycheck time of lifestyle that many millions of people are finding themselves in. And many people in this pandemic are finding themselves, my goodness, they may have had jobs, they may be unessential, they may be suddenly living off of welfare income, and their regular normal lifestyles and things that they have comfort are now sort of luxury items, and adjusting to having a little bit less might be difficult for people. But as I said, if you do have a pepper pantry and you do have a food insurance stockpile, then when you do come to eventualities like we may be facing ourselves in at the moment, then that is something that you don't have to worry about. It does relieve some stress, it does relieve some anxieties, and as I said, if you can kind of have a meal in your belly, it kind of doesn't make things look as bleak and desperate as it is. And this is why the importance of prepping. Now, there is no kind of real right way or wrong way to prep. You prep according to you. This is how I prep. Some of you that have been watching me for a while now have kind of adopted and incorporated some of my prepping methods and techniques in your own, things like prison ramen recipes, things that I've brought and incorporated on this channel, which are some things that many of you more experienced preppers were unaware of and can be essential skills, survival skills to have in a shit hit in the fan situation, or even just for fun and camping. You may have caught a couple of weeks back a video I put out with my Toronto friends here, where we camped out at the beach and we made ramen, prison ramen down at the beach, and within like less than 5 minutes we had a very nutritious, healthy and a delicious meal to share amongst us for pennies on the dollar, a fraction of the cost of maybe going out and eating or trying to sort of feed 4 people. Otherwise, we managed to put together a very, very hearty dish for around about $3 or $4, $1 a person, and there was even enough leftovers to feed the ducks and gulls down on the beach. But food insurance, as I said, we've all got to eat, and you're never ever gonna not need food until you're dead. And having a food insurance and a little bit of a stocked pantry might prevent you from dying that little bit longer, might just prolong the agony, but at least if you can feed yourself, then things aren't gonna be so bleak. But as I said, guys, some of my pantry has been depleted. If or not I will be returning to work anytime soon remains to be seen. If not, I still have plenty of food there, and as I said, I kind of been lucky enough through the generosity of some of my viewers who have generously donated to my tip jar. They've managed to keep me topped up with things like cigarettes, marijuana, and some fresh produce, some things like eggs, potatoes, bread, milk, cheese, these kind of things, so I can kind of make myself some fresh food, as opposed to kind of living off of military rations that have gone past their best, prisons, ramen, or cans of beans. Not that I'm against eating these things, but as I said, prior to this pandemic, I worked as a chef in a restaurant. I was one of the perks of my job was I was allowed to eat for free, fully stocked restaurant kitchen at my disposal. I was eating not necessarily healthy, but I was eating nutritiously each and every day. I'll get my meat, get some veggies, get some fruits. Very, very, very varied diet. But within a few days and weeks of being off work and out of the kitchen and unable to eat the fresh produce each and every day that I was once fortunate enough to be able to do, I resorted to living off of military rations and canned stuff. So it is very nice every now and then, maybe just to make yourself some bacon and some eggs and some hash browns, just to kind of get some home cooking into you. And that's a little bit of a comfort food, is that it's a comfort for you. But anyway, guys, that's it. Let's not ramble on too much. The other kind of thing I have got up there just before I will sign out, I got some coffee and some tea bags there, some coffee filters, got some Kool-Aid, sort of drink time substances on the top of the pile of containers there. On top of this little chest of drawers, I got some crackers, peanut butters, jellies, things like that. There's some of the leftover Japanese candy in there. I do have some Coca-Colas. I do like to get a soda when I eat. The bubbles, the sugars kind of helps me digest a little bit. I don't eat much sugar, so it's a good way to get some sugar into my system, although Coca-Cola sodas some people might not frown about, but comfort food, sometimes a little bit of comfort in a crisis goes a long way, guys. But anyway, this is my pantry. I am not a pretender prepper, I am a real prepper. And in this pandemic time, it's the fact that I've been a real prepper and I've had food insurance that it hasn't been as uncomfortable as it could have been. And in these more recent days, and sort of since the summer, more like weather has come, it's almost been like a little bit of a vacation for me, although there are still some anxieties and worries and concerns about what is going on in the world and in my immediate future in terms of employment, getting back to work and being able to get a regular income in. So hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed, can get back to work soon. Maybe we can start replenishing some of the stock that we have used in our pantry. And again, this is another good example. You've got to do some stock rotation. So we've made, we've eaten some stuff, we've lived off it, we now have some room to replace it with some longer term shelf life stuff, because you don't want your food insurance to go to waste. And again, if you have it on hand, then why not utilize it? So anyway, as I said, guys, that is about it. We are going to wrap it up now. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you want to go hit the bell, smash the like, do some sharing, subscribing, go ahead and knock yourself out. Don't normally tell you to do those things, but hey, it does help support the channel. Maybe get these videos out to a few other people that might become thrifty preppers like yourself and me. As I said, guys, Shit Video Productions. This is TSP TV. Maybe check out some of my other playlists if you enjoyed this video. And until then, we will see you in the next one. Keep it thrifty, and remember, be excellent to each other. Take care, guys. See you next time.